about my work, do a little bit of a demo, and so yeah, the shape of the evening will be we'll start in this inside studio.
Jem, you'll think.
Yeah, sorry, I had a picture come up on the screen.
Okay,
Okay,
and then talk a little bit about sort of the evolution of my work, and then go to my outside studio. Yes, I have 2 studios, and do a little demo and have a little chat there. So what place to start? Yes,
it's really lovely to see inside your studio and your collection of pieces behind you.
It's cozy, it's cozy. I suppose I ought to start by talking a little bit about me. I was brought up mostly in Cambridge, and we'll get on to talk about the sort of museums and collections that I was sort of honoured to be able to go and see there. But I did a foundation course there, of which maybe we'll talk about later. But then went on to study a degree in fine art in Bristol, which was Bristol Polytechnic, then now UE, the University of the West of England. So I studied fine art. I specialised, so the first year, sculpture, painting, printmaking, all sorts of different printmaking, absolutely loved it. And I thought I'd go into painting, but I specialised in sculpture. All sorts of different, welding, spot welding, arc welding, casting. It was a very traditional kind of course where crafts were, very, very important. So, you knew your crafts, and then you could.
And then that it would enable you to do your work. So what do you think about the why 3D really took over?
Well, I was listening to Richard Long the other day, and he was in Hesticum, and he was saying, I've been making mud pies since the age of 2. And I thought, yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been making mud pies, I've been making sculptural things, and painting and drawing, obviously, as well there. So I specialised in sculpture, and then I specialised in bronze casting. Very, very attracted to bronze. In fact, I dug out, it's really small but really heavy. I just adore bronze, and at some stage would love this. So this is a harpy. It's only small, but it's incredibly dense. So I just love. Sorry,
I was going to say it's like a harpy crossed with a cycladic figure.
Yes. Well, we'll sort of talk more about, my classical bent, I suppose. But I really warm to bronze, and at some stage I would like to do some more. But yes, I'm looking at you. So I'm just But on leaving college, I worked with some bronze casters and some sculptors in Gloucestershire. It was like an apprenticeship, really. I was working freelance, helping them make their bronzes. Yeah, it was just bronzes. Oh, and mould making and things like that. So I did that for a little bit, and then moved to Exeter, where I did a PGCE, postgraduate certificate of education, just to have in the back pocket. Even though I wanted to continue my practice, it's always quite useful having a sort of teaching thing to fall back on. You never know. And then, yes, I taught for 3 years, and then sort of gave it up to sort of continue my own practice. And of course,
at that point, was it bronze and sculpture you were doing, or had you decided by then to move into ceramics?
Well, when you live in a little Victorian terraced house with a little Victorian terraced yard, you can't really work in bronze. You can't set up a foundry. You can't sort of have big plaster molds and things. So I thought, well, what should I work in? And yeah, clay seemed to be the obvious thing. I love permanent materials. So yeah, clay seemed to be the sort of next best thing, really. Not the next best thing, but the good alternative. So if I move around here,
yeah,
thinking, what sort of things would I like to make? Because I'd had a little break from making, really, what with sort of starting a family and teaching. So I started off with, a love of mine, sort of myths, stories, and a sort of classical aspect, I suppose. I was making things like Mercury, river gods. I was exploring clay at the same time. This is a tea material. So this dates, this is more than 30 years old, good God.
wow.
Yes. And it hasn't broken, amazingly. But I'm sort of, be like me to sort of break the tail tonight. But anyway, so yes, I sort of was making classical things. And then,
and when you say classical things, you're talking about myths, legends, and classical storytelling.
I've been very interested in myths, legends, classical stories. I grew up on, Norse legends and, the Red Fairy Book, the Blue Fairy Book, Grimm's, and, I love narration, history, stories. But yes, I thought, well, this has nothing to do with me, these classical sort of myths. It's a good starting point. But then I wanted to explore different clays and different themes, and where better to go, really. This is my own private collection of figures. I found terracotta, and basically I've never looked back. I love terracotta, a bit like bronze. It's just warm. It's a sort of material that keeps giving. It's just lovely. Whatever you do with it, obviously you have to respect it. But I was working with a tin glaze. I think I just wanted to work big, push the boundaries. Well, that's as much as I could fit in my kiln. That sort of took up a whole kiln, one of those figures. Maybe had I had a bigger kiln, it might have got even bigger. So I was just reveling in, I suppose, the human body. And at the same time, I was thinking, well, my own myths. I'm going to go round here now, clockwise maybe, to, some more examples. Ooh, having a panoramic scene.
Yeah, I'm moving slowly because I've got told I've got to
Yes.
move slowly.
Yes, because we don't want to make your head funny, Jenny.
Yeah, get seasick.
Yes, what I should have done was sort of gem up on these. But so yeah, limited palette. Oh yeah, so not tin glaze anymore. I thought I've sort of tried that. I'm going to work with slip now. So slip on terracotta.
Right.
Even got the price all that time ago.
Jenny, you want to go closer?
Pardon? Right. So slip, which, as many of you know, is quite unforgiving, really, because so again, that's terracotta. So I would cover it all with a sort of creamy glaze, and have a very limited palette of copper carbonate, and cobalt oxide. These are my own stories, my own myths. So this is me and Jem, actually. It's called The Haircut. And it's just looking at the domestic. There's a little narrative going on there, but whoop, that's my bottom. Oh dear.
Very nice.
Do you like it? Whoop, whoop.
Yes, lovely.
Okay, so I was just focusing on very ordinary, very domestic, the planting of seeds, the painting of toenails. I'll just show this very quickly. Painting of toenails, just very ordinary things, making the bed, we'd got an allotment by now and begun to have a family. So this is just, I can't remember what it's called, but it's, you know, a man cutting a hedge. So the things that we were doing, we were sort of had our house and a garden and allotment for the first time, and we were reveling, celebrating in the fact of just growing things. Growing things was just, you know, a revelation, really. You know,
So these are little vignettes of your life.
they're little vignettes of my life, our life. Yes.
Yeah. But interestingly, although they're tiny, they have a monumental quality, the figures.
Right.
And the lady of painting her toenails is like the females. There's a Henry Moore in Dartington Gardens that not the same, but it has that feel of that monumentalness of the body and the small head and the protruding breasts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, I always take it as a big compliment when people say my work is like Henry Moore, because, you know, he is one of my heroes. I just love his work. This is based a little bit later, actually, based on my daughter, and we used to dance up and down the kitchen. She would just love to dance. But yes, they could be, you could imagine them being much bigger, couldn't you? Monumental in size.
Yeah, they would be huge. A dancing mum and daughter in a park would be lovely.
Yes, that's right. Yes, somebody did mention that, you know, why do they just have, you know, generals with on horseback with sort of their sword out in parks? You know, why not beautiful women as well and things? So where do we go from here? I don't know. Yes. So yeah, I wanted to introduce more colour. The time came, the time felt right when I began to introduce more colour. I've talked about this, Jenny, how I'm very interested in the, well, all sorts of things, but the Staffordshire flatbacks.
Yeah.
They've always figured quite prominently and heavily in my work. With simple, I mean, they've got tend to have very simple colour fields. These are obviously less simple. And
the storytelling in the is very important, it seems. The storytelling of each individual piece.
Yeah, I mean, they all seem to have a narrative. Yes, I'm going to. They all seem to have a narrative. You know, I don't necessarily try to introduce one, but they all seem. So this is this one here. It's a slightly later one. I'm not going completely chronologically, but these two are from a sort of series which I've done about sort of family history, my forebears, and this was about my father, my dad, who grew up in Wellington, New Zealand, and a sort of quite backward place in the 1930s, where the dogs, the domestic dogs, every day would sort of get together, club together and sort of run wild. They were these feral dogs that would just go in a group and almost revert to their wolf-like state. And my poor dad, here he is there, would be really scared. I mean, he'd only be sort of 3, 4, 5 and, you know, going out for a walk to get some milk for his mum. And, you know, these dogs would just range free and go back to this semi-feral state. So that, you know, that's one of the images that's always stuck in my mind. So, but you know, people can relate to that. They don't need to know the story, and I you know, when I show these to people, I don't necessarily tell them the story because everybody has their own interpretation. So I leave it to people's own interpretation. This one, for example, again, it's about my maternal grandparents. In fact, my maternal parents who met. So my grandfather was head gardener in a market garden, and across the other side of the river, this was in Finland, in southern Finland, across the other side of the river, there's a station, a railway station, where the station master's daughter completely captivated his heart. So every day he would take the boat, you know, after his day was done, and row across the river to go and see his beautiful Erlin. And so it's a little bit gushy, but you know, it sort of speaks. So that's about sort of my family more. These are more, I suppose, yes, the narrative is more archetypally classical. Yeah, sort of sorry,
Green Man.
yeah, well, basically the Green Man. I became increasingly interested in having figures within nature, either a garden, actually, I mean, I'd worked on that for some time, either a garden or the wild. So I would make these little tableaus, well, not so little tableaus, where there would be, yes, a figure relating to nature, reveling in nature, passionate, you know, part of nature. You can see, you know, the sort of wears the leaves in the same way. And sometimes there would be an animal involved as well. So it's almost sort of part of our deep internal psyche, again, open to interpretation by everybody. You know, it can be read in completely different ways, really.
They're lovely, Jenny, really lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. So what
someone asked, are those pieces solid or are they hollow?
Yeah, well, a combination, really. Thank you. So this is solid, this is solid, this is hollow, because I mean, I always sort of judge it no more than an inch. I don't like to push solid pieces any more than an inch. So that would be too much if that were solid. So as a result, oh gee, it's got a, yes, I put a hole there, and same here. The building, the station building there has got a couple of holes here for free distribution of air. And these, yes, in fact, this is what I'll be demonstrating a little bit at the back. Those are hollow here, because it would just be too much to be solid, and also it'd be extremely heavy.
Yeah.
So I think we're done here.
Okay, so we're going to go across to your studio across the garden.
Yes.
So if you want to quickly go across the garden, because we've got no signal in the garden.
Okay.
We'll
Well,
just
first of all, before you get turned off, I'll just show you the doll's house as we go across.
Oh yes. Okay. Thank you.
So shut this door so that the cat doesn't come in. That's it. Follow me. Okay. Right, I should have walked there. Maybe, I just want to show you this doll's house. Does that probably doesn't help, does it?
That's good.
Yeah. So my dad made this doll's house for me about 50 years ago. He used the bathroom, looks like the bathroom wallpaper, to sort of put a little bit of So I really love this doll's house. So I've just rescued it from the shed at the family house, and I like to just make little scenarios here, and anybody who sees my Instagram posts will be able to follow little things that happen there.
That's fascinating. Right, are you going across the garden now?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
You take over.
Yeah, I'll ask the next lot of questions as soon as we get down the garden, because it starts buffering. So as soon as Jenny's back in the studio, I'll ask about the terracotta body, and also about how the decoration is added. So Paul, I'll do that as soon as we've got some communication with Jenny again. So she lives down, she works just down the garden near the railway line, and she works in this rectangular studio, which I'm sure, and the signal will come back in a moment. I hope.
Oh, Jenny, are we okay?
Yeah, we are now. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
I've got a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
Get yourself settled. Paul Smith asks, what's your favourite terracotta clay body?
I'm very keen. I have tried, you know, for the bigger sculptural pieces, a highly grogged terracotta, but I tend to use a 10% grogged terracotta Valentine's clay.
Yeah.
I biscuit 1,000 and then glaze at 1060, and it's a Pottery Crafts. I don't make my own glazes, but it's a Pottery Crafts glaze, P2027, and they seem to be really
a transparent glaze.
Transparent, glossy. Yes.
Mim's very interested to see how the decoration is added, but I believe you're going to show us how you do that.
Yes, a little bit. Yes, watching me decorate is like watching paint dry, but we can go through a little bit. Yes, okay. I'm not going to do a huge amount of decorating, but yeah, I mean, maybe we'll do that another time. So, what are we going to do here?
Knitting pattern.
Yes, yes. Well, I had about 4 or 5 years ago, I had this. I'm going to introduce you to my knitting pattern folk. 4 or 5 years ago, I had this sort of Damascene moment where I thought, well, I've been collecting these vintage 1950s, 60s, 70s knitting patterns for about 30 years, you know, decades. I've always liked how they're just so funny and weird and contrived, and there's something that appeals to me hugely. But I suddenly thought, you know, I've been collecting these sort of in the background. I could actually use them in my work, you know, why not? You know, I make figurative work, they're figurative. So I just wanted to show you the kind of thing. I mean, I hope there isn't too much glare. Can you see?
Oh yeah, I do. I find them hilarious, actually.
They really are funny. They really are, and they're sort of trying to be natural, but this is one of my favorites. There's this woman.
Can you hold that? It hasn't got the glare on it. It's got a bit glary. Oh, yes. So, yeah, yeah, now.
Yeah.
Why is she standing on one leg?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Why indeed? Well, you know, why is she cocking her leg?
It keeps on going out of focus, Jem.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get it right.
Maybe over here.
Keep moving. No, well, you just get it static, honey, and I will move to get it right.
Okay. Ponchos. Love ponchos. Can you see that?
No, well, it's the lights. There we are.
Yeah. And I'll show you some of the pieces that relate. What's the matter? To these.
Emma Marston says, loving this, and Claire Davies says, I love your knitting patterns on Instagram. They are fabulous. Oh, yeah, that's great, Jenny. That's great. Hold it there. Yeah.
Yeah. On Instagram, I do this sort of Friday. I hope I'll be able to do it tomorrow. Every Friday, I post a group of, knitting pattern people on bicycles or down on the river or eating ice lollies or something. I sort of have a theme and I rattle off some I don't know, train of consciousness.
They're a bit out of focus. You might have to, can you get the book to go upright? Better.
Yeah, I'll try and do it upright because they are pertinent. Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Yeah, okay. So I love this one, they're holding a shell there and looking very pleased with themselves. He's holding books on nature. They're so sweet. And,
a gardening theme.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's right up my alley. Yeah, she looks as pleased as punch. And look at these 4 ladies of leisure.
Love the hat.
Poker. Yes. I mean, that's what.
Somebody said, was that Roger Moore? I'm not. Is that the gardening, the man with the nature? No, I don't think so. Oh,
here?
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't know. He definitely features Roger Moore. He's definitely in some. I'm not sure about that one. But yeah, you get Jean Shrimpton, you get Roger Moore. Oh, crikey, I can't. Twiggy sometimes. Big Ben with his. Oh, this for anybody.
Has he got a pipe in his hand?
He's got a pipe in his hand here.
And his pheasants that he's just shot with his ugly.
Well, yeah, but does he look like? He doesn't look like a pheasant shooter, does he?
No, he doesn't really. But he's leaning on straw, isn't he? Yeah. So we're going there.
Maybe he's a fucker. But anyway, I just, I mean, what they do is they, they have a character or characters. They have a background. I mean, look, there's a wonderful shadow here. They're telling a story themselves. They have props, as you see with the watering can. Yeah, and often with women, there'll be foliage. There's an awful lot of foliage, flowers, soft furnishings. Some of them have scarves, some of them don't. I love the body language. They're either outside or inside, or they've got some kind of retro background. Sometimes they're in a chalk quarry. Sometimes they're in Milan. So what? So anyway, let me introduce you to my knitting pattern folk. I'm going to do
the drawings.
Oh, the drawings. Yeah, no, thank you for reminding me. So what I've done, and I hope you'll be able to see this, is and I'm going to be doing this next week after a bit of a gap. Can you see those?
Yes, yes.
So I just use them as a springboard for getting the feeling and the idea, and yeah, just a general feeling and a sort of angle, a slant of, the sort of weird and wacky hair, of the angles. So bit of drawing, bit of painting, mark making, exploration, and which I really enjoy, but I don't give myself the permission enough to do 2-dimensional work. But I love it so much, and it informs the finished.
I think it's really, really important, 2-dimensional work. I mean, to me, it is incredibly important.
You do. I mean, your sketchbooks are absolutely amazing, aren't they? And it must inform your 3-dimensional work.
It does completely. It was my way of gathering information, but now it's a bit of a thing on its own. But I also you can see direct references, but these are great because you can see the knitting pattern people, and then you can see them transforming into your three-dimensional figures.
Yes.
In the angles and the bulk of them, and the changes of structure. But these are lovely drawings, Jenny. Really lovely.
Oh, thank you. So let's just, so these are the finished pieces. The light's not fantastic here, so I'll bring them out. And it would be nice if I had enough
You might
hands.
have to put them down because they're wobbling about a bit.
Okay, yeah, so
that's good, that's
better. Yeah, so I don't know if you can look onto that as well. So that was the original, and then this would be my own interpretation, which isn't so very far off, really.
I love the kinky boots.
I wondered what you were going to say there for a minute. Yeah. Well, girls having a good time, good night out. Yeah, girlfriend.
Is this Bristol?
That's Brizzle, yeah. Yeah. And actually here's another one, which was a sort of fairly literal. So.
Oh yes. I love her hair.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah, look at the original. I mean, her hair is just as wacky as anything. Yeah.
I bet that's a bit of hairspray.
Oh, there must be a ton of it there. But I'll show you a pattern that really caught my imagination. I don't know, a year or two ago, probably a couple of years ago now, where it's slightly surreal. This upright.
Yeah.
So that's a bed jacket, but this woman and her reflection are both as clear as day, and it's quite spooky and surreal. And I just thought the idea of this mirror and seeing the background in the mirror, also a little bit here, but predominantly in the mirror, that it really struck a chord. So I'll just quickly, I've lost it now, show you. So I did a bit of exploration, just looking at, shape again, pattern, all sorts of things. And then, and this has sparked for the last year or so. First of all, quite simple. Right, how about over here? This is the problem about having a Zoom when it's dark. So yeah, a very simple figure looking at her reflection.
And is the reflection drawn? Yeah, it's drawn on. It's painted on.
Painted, drawn, but yes, painted really. Yes, so they were quite simple to begin with, and then they got slightly more. Talk about this.
Could everybody turn off their video so that our stream is better, please?
Can't see.
Yeah, we can.
Where? Here. How about there? Yeah. So then they get rated. And they also reference other pieces of three-dimensional pieces. Oh well, the three dogs there.
The 3 dogs are there. Lizzie said, so clever, loving the reflection work.
Oh, thank you. Yes, because they are. I mean, reflection has 2 different meanings. It reflects an image, but also the. Have I done that one? No. But they are also reflective as well, because the woman. And they have been just women up to now, are reflective, and again it's open to interpretation, and I've really enjoyed doing the painting. So maybe just one last one. Okay. That's called Chinese wallpaper. Can you see that?
Yes, that's lovely, really beautiful. Peter Bowen says,
Yeah.
what year was Jenny studying art at Bristol Poly?
What was I? Sorry?
What year at Bristol?
Yeah, okay. Peterborough. I'm just trying to remember if I can remember Peterborough. I think it was 70. I think it was 80 to 83.
There you
Why?
go.
When was Peter there?
I don't know. I don't know if he was there.
Oh, well.
He
Hopefully
might
he
have been. He
was.
might have been. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, there's one. Yeah.
I'm just doing a little bit of fiddling around, so the camera's going to be all over the place for about 10
Oh,
seconds.
shall I hold it?
Okay.
Okay. It's just that we're worried about the battery, so we're sort of got extension leads galore here. Okay.
Right. Peter says he was there from 69 to 72 with Richard Godfrey.
Okay. 69 to, oh, so earlier on.
To 72, yeah.
Yeah. Where can we put that? Up on here? Sorry, we're just getting all.
Lizzie says, have you been tempted to work much larger on this work? And then there's or question mark.
Yeah, well, tempting. It's I meant to show the kilns actually. I'll show you the kilns later because but because about 5 years ago, my kiln, my old 30-year-old pottery crafts kiln, sort of started to cough and splutter. So I thought, time to get a new one, one that'll see me out. And I bought this great big, and I was doing quite large pieces at that time. So I got a great big thing, and then suddenly my work got really, really small, and so I had to buy myself a smaller kiln, or else I would have spent a year filling up the big one. But I really like the intimacy of these small pieces. The thing I find about doing big work, and there's so many people, like Paul Smith does it so well, but I find sometimes the architectural construction, I love doing it, but I lose a bit of me in that. And when I'm doing small pieces where I, like this kind of, I just push the clay around. I can sort of push it with my fingers and have instant effects. That I really like that. And so my work has become very much smaller and, I suppose domestic as a result. It'll never get taken up by Saatchi or whatever, because it's not big. It's not the big statements anymore. No, I think there's a place. I think you have to. It's knowing yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I work better on a smaller scale.
Well, they certainly work. They even though they're small, like I say, they have some monumentality to them. Sarah Evans says, what is your thinking behind the boneless looking long arms? Is it a style thing?
Boneless looking long arms. Are we talking about this? Boneless looking long arms. Is that right, Sarah?
Sarah, you may have to answer. I don't know.
But well, let's assume. Yeah, I mean, with the, I think you're talking about. Yeah, why don't you get one of those? Yeah. Yes. I don't know. It's funny because you talk about the sort of Henry Moore with the small head, and I went to so many ceramic fairs where everybody would say, "Why have they all got small heads?" And I almost didn't notice because it becomes a stylized thing after a bit, doesn't it? It's a sort of, sorry.
Yeah, she says yes. They're always overly long and bendy.
Or maybe they want to be javelin throwers.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, I suppose you just develop a style and you do it without thinking. I mean, sometimes they're more natural.
And she also says she loves them.
Sarah, thank you. That's really kind. So I haven't a clue what the time frame is because I forgot to take the clock through here.
Well,
So
you're 46 minutes in, so don't worry.
Right. Okay, yes. Well, we're just going to have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
But what I thought we could do is go into some of the rudiments of the construction of something like this. Quite simple figure tree and a little tussocky mound kind of thing. Obviously, the man is solid. The tree and the and the trunk is hollow. So we'll do a little bit of construction and then we'll look at the decoration. So this is called Tree of Blackbirds and it's just inspired by, you know, we have apple trees in the garden and there's nothing so amazing as apple trees in the spring. This studio, can't see it in the dark, but it's at an amazing situation. Right outside, there's a railway cutting and it's a wildlife corridor. There's just, you know, there's sometimes there's pheasants and nightingales, there's all kinds of tits, there's robins, there's, you know, just wrens, nuthatch, and there's bats and foxes and badgers and all sorts. So we're absolutely blessed to have this. So as a result, they all come into the garden as well. So, you know, I'm inspired by what's around. So a lot of this will be, and this is a bit I did earlier because, you know, there is only so much sort of space and so time. Yeah, but I would start with the base, but not make it solid because it's just too. Can you see that from there or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's just too thick to be solid. So I'll make a rudimentary mould onto which I will just
With which you've put a bit of plastic on.
Yeah, of which I've got a bit of plastic on, which of course is so that you can separate your mould from this. So this is one I just made earlier. No, I mustn't say that. Yeah, no, this is the thing. I can't sort of do an awful lot of that. I'll probably make everybody sick with all the vibrations. But is that juddering it?
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So I just got a sort of blob of clay and sort of pressed it into place. And I love, yeah, we could talk a little bit, I suppose, about the tools that I use. I use very few tools. This is the tool, my go-to tool. I just do everything with this. I don't know who made this one, but the original ones I used to get were made by Taranti. It was a toughened steel. And I just use this. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah,
this
I can.
everything. And but yes, I use very little apart from that, really. But yes, so I'll make that, and then that can easily be taken off at a later date. And dried a little bit so that, I mean, it's leather hard, so I can just about do things with that now. And maybe I should have done more. I was a bit worried about the vibrations, you know, doing everything on here. So so again, I made this earlier, which is just basically a roll of, you know, a sausage, nice big sausage, and get it more or less how I like it. And of course, it's got to have a hole in it And so I start off with a brush and just sort of push it gradually there, and then roll that. And then when that's sort of done its job, I'll put a larger, thicker one there. And as I say, I usually work over here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is
But
this
anyway.
is this to make your tree forms?
So that'll be the tree form. Yes. Yeah. And then it's the foliage bit. So I thought we could yeah, here we are. So just to get this this shape here. So I already rolled some clay earlier today. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Angle?
that's
Okay,
lovely. Yeah.
And there's a knife. I'll tell you what, I'm going to change glasses. Where's my reading glasses? Oh, there they are. I'll be able to actually see what I'm doing. God, it's dreadful, isn't it, when you have to just keep on finding different glasses. So, do this freehand. A nice, generous shape, because it's flat, but once you've made it three-dimensional, it'll be smaller.
Yeah.
Because it's going round. Right, I hope I haven't, I'm doing this so quickly. So then just sort of turn that over so it's a mirror image. And of course I haven't left enough space. It's pretty much, that fits there pretty much. So it's a mirror image, and it doesn't have to do.
So is this the standard Valentine's terracotta?
Is the standard one, that's not grogged, is it?
There's I'm not sure. It's not the one that's 636 or 363.
I couldn't tell without having the.
Oh, don't worry, don't worry.
Actually, yeah, bring that bigger one over, huh? Yeah, all I know is it's got a green spot on the bottom, which indicates that it's 10% grogged.
Oh, it might be the 636 then. I think mine's got a green spot on it.
Right. Where'd you get yours from, Jenny?
Valentine's.
Valentine's, yes. Okay.
It says ideal for hand building and throwing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, mine doesn't say anything on it really, but yes, 10% grog gives enough tensile strength without it, because I like a nice smooth surface. When I got the heavily grogged one, it was just too.
Yeah, and it pulls on lines and things like that. If you
yes, yeah. So I suppose everybody knows about scratching and damping. I'm a great one for scratching and damping. And what I'm going to do is just provide a surface.
Do you generally work on more than one piece at a time?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And when you're doing that, are they themed?
What the ones that I'm working on, are they all of the same theme?
Well, you know, so if you're working on a group, do they follow a kind of the same kind of storyline, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I would say so. Yes, they're very much related. I couldn't work on, say, a person same time as doing these. I mean, I could, but you have to find that headspace, that mind space. I think it is important to get in the zone. And I suppose when you're, I mean, I don't know how you find that, but
Yeah,
you
when
know,
I'm
if your mission at the same time as, I mean, you do all sorts of things, don't you? Because you make functional wear as well as sculptural wear.
yeah, but I keep it very separate.
Do in separate in terms of time?
Yeah, time. I can't jump into. I know people think, oh, you can. Oh, you could just make that. No, I couldn't, because my
No.
brain's gone completely.
It has to focus. You have to
Yeah,
allow
yeah.
that space.
Yeah. Emma Marsden says, at some point, could you tell us how you began to get your work in galleries?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, what I did was, the way I did it was, I applied to be a member of the Devon Guild of Craftsmen, as was.
That's exactly the same way as I did it.
Yeah, yeah, because you need a showcase, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you couch your work around galleries. I suppose what many people do is, I mean, there are so many craft fairs and ceramic fairs now, more so than there more opportunities now than there ever were. But because I had a young family and I actually couldn't go away that easily to fairs, because you have to have a commitment of sort of 3-4 days, and when you're, you know, breastfeeding or taking them to school and back, it's a bit onerous. So what I did, yeah, I became a member of the Devon Guild of Craftsmen. Luckily, you know, I was lucky to be accepted, and that acts as a showcase to show your work to, because anybody, you know, in the Southwest who's interested, any other gallery will go there to see, oh, you know, who's showing, who's, you know, who's the latest talent, you know, who's fresh and interesting. And so as a result, I very rarely approached galleries. It's always been them. Yeah, so as a result of that initial thing, it helps to have a break. But I mean, as I say, there's so many. I mean, there wasn't Etsy then. The internet wasn't so, well, it wasn't sophisticated. It didn't exist.
No.
And so fairs, but yes, you can do so much more on the internet now, and tout your own stuff. You don't need to necessarily go through galleries, but I suppose galleries was the sort of the main way to get your work seen.
Well, I think galleries are probably really useful for people who to see your work in real life, because I think there's no comparison to seeing something, being able to touch it, and if you want to handle it, or I think it's much, you know, it is a very direct way of buying especially three-dimensional work.
Yes, yeah, you need to see it in the rounds. There's only so much you can see either in photos or on Zoom.
So at the moment, are you using a metal kidney there?
No, this is, I mean, no, I have got a
rubber one.
It's a rubber one, and of course,
it's a small rubber one.
Yes,
I thought the light was reflecting on it, and it looked,
it does look metallic, doesn't it? But yes, I use a small rubber one. But yes, I have various sizes of kidneys, which I use for various jobs. I love
that's interesting, because you're using your hand to mold it, and if the one got larger, you'd have to grow larger hands.
Or I could get Jem in. He's got very large hands. He could just and I could put a story tape on and just use it. So yes, I suppose, yes, my hands are the natural I suppose for most makers, they are the natural where's my, so that's actually I've got a ridiculously small brush, but it should do the job. I'm sure everybody watching knows how to scratch and damp.
I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody's really interested.
Yeah.
Emma says fab, thanks.
Yes. Did I? I wonder if I answered her question
Yeah,
as
yeah.
completely as I could. But yeah, it's an interesting thing about, you know, how, yeah, there are so many more opportunities now of being able to show your work, and I think there's also a market, a thirst, a hunger, an interest in things that have been handmade. And I don't think just during lockdown, you know, and there's definitely this sort of buy once, buy better thing going round. But yeah, I think people do like beautiful things. You know, if I go to
I think people like things that have been touched by another human being and and created by hand.
Yeah, yes, yeah, because it's you know, it's the touch of Lazarus, isn't it? It's sort of well, that's probably not the right metaphor, but yeah, it's bringing the inanimate animate and making, yeah, beautiful handmade
But
things.
It,
I use my
and also it harps back to the way I know you love to go to museums and see artifacts from previous cultures, history, and that the joy when you see that someone's made this beautiful object with their hands.
Yeah.
And it's so
Yes.
sophisticated at times, and yet you know, it's always a craftsman has sat and made it, and it might be
That's right.
thousands of years old.
That's right, and some things, some of those Neolithic lions made out of antlers, or those bears that you see.
They're extraordinary.
Yeah, and apparently they've. Well, I haven't got the right tool here, but they have taken literally thousands of hours, some of them. So it shows that there was a need. I need some time. Anyway, yeah, no, I love. I've always loved museums. As we were talking, weren't we, about Cambridge. I mean, it's got the Fitzwilliam Museum, which is full of classical, you know, it's full of everything really, but there's a lot of Roman, Egyptian, ancient Greek, as well as contemporary work. And then there's the Museum of Classical Archaeology, Ethnology and Archaeology, Ethnology, and I can't remember anything. And the zoology, and we were talking about Kettle's Yard, weren't we, earlier?
Oh yeah.
Which is such, I mean, so very, very different. But again, you know, Jim Eade loved to collect these things that spiritually were important.
Yeah, everything from a Brancusi head to a seed pod.
Yes. And also there's very little in between, isn't? I mean, you know, Brancusi head, or that was it Brancusi or Gaudia Brescia? Yeah.
They had he has Gaudia Brescia and also a Brancusi head, which isn't an original.
Right.
And the one that's on the disc of a bronze polished disc.
Oh. Yes, yes, but that's almost like a seed head, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And the Brescia drawings, they were they're just I mean, he's one of my heroes.
And you used to be able to go into Kettle's Yard, and there wouldn't be queues and queues and queues. You wouldn't have to book You could just walk in and you left your bag at the entrance, and you could go upstairs to the big table there and sit down and take a book from the, I don't think you can touch the books now.
No, well,
Yeah.
I went there once to see the Gaudia Brescia drawings, and when I got there I spoke to the curator and he said, oh, I'm really sorry, they're being reframed, and I must have looked crestfallen because
Oh,
I
no.
traveled so far, and and he said, how far have you come? And I told him, and he said, well, actually they've gone to be reframed, but I've got them all out of the frames, so I'll just get the portfolio out. And he
And they do that then,
and he
wouldn't they?
allowed me to go through all of the drawings one by one with him, not even framed. They
And when
just
was this, Jenny?
when was that?
Yeah,
It was probably in the 80s.
right. But you wouldn't get that now.
No,
you know.
no, it's expanded, but I have been recently. I've been in the last 7 years, and I've got to go to Cambridge very soon, so I'll probably go in again.
Oh, well, I wouldn't mind going in there with you and talking, chewing over things.
Oh, well, but we'll have to have a road trip.
Well, absolutely got to do that. Anyway, I'm not making a very good job here because I'm sort of gabbing, but you get the idea. You know, I'll work inside, I'll work outside, I'll sort of cajole, persuade, and spend a little time. It looks dreadful, actually. But if you sort of tell it's who's boss for long enough, you'll get something that looks a bit more like that.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, it just needs just more attention than I'm prepared to give it at the moment. I've packed a bit of newspaper inside just to stop it getting in. But it helps to reinforce with clay on the inside, with more clay to sort of just reinforce that join. That's very clunky. That's the ugliest tree
Well,
I've ever made.
don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on it.
I won't. I won't. I won't. So that's your tree. And do I have time to make a little figure, I wonder?
Yes, you're fine. You're fine for time.
Fine, okay. Because I don't know how long we're going to do for questions and answers.
Well, they're basically. Oh, Moira says so astoundingly jealous, but I'm not quite sure what of.
Oh, Moira.
Moira, you have to explain further.
Yeah, come on, Moira, explain yourself. What are you jealous of?
We have a chance to look at how you apply decoration to some, because what I find really interesting with especially the blackbirds in the trees, you've got the three-dimensional, being so close to those, yeah, that was the most amazing moment of my life, I think. Moira, she's being so close to those, being shown those drawings at the museum. Yeah.
Oh.
I know, they're absolutely amazing. And I realized now over the years that I've so heavily influenced by the way he draws and his sounding ability.
Very fluid. And my goodness, I mean, he didn't last that long, did he?
No, he was 28 when he died.
Yeah, but you know, everybody knows the name of Gaudia Brescia, don't they? I mean, it's astonishing that one so young can have such a loud voice.
Yeah, and such impact
in this world.
Yeah,
and just such impact from
kingfishers.
So few things, really.
Yeah, his kingfisher swallowing
the fish.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's.
Yeah.
So well, I could make a figure, but we could talk about. I mean, I'm trying to think where I've got.
What was the hollow sausage, please? That was the trunk of the tree.
The hollow sausage was the trunk of the tree that I would then I mean, if I had all the time in the world, it'd be nice to have a day with you guys. With fraction down.
No, just because you said that,
What?
would you? You shouldn't have said that. Would you be willing to? Would you be willing to actually do a day's demonstration workshop with us at Laddock?
I'll tell you what. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it subsequently.
You really shouldn't have said that.
Don't put me on the spot. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah. Jane says, "Oh yes, please make a figure."
Okay, oh, please make a figure. Okay, we'll make a figure, and then I'll show you. You know, I won't. There probably won't be time to do any decoration, but I can take you through how I decorate. So, well, figure. Okay, bit of clay. I'll start with the torso. So we're making somebody like him.
Okay.
And just again, it's sort of it's the haptic feet. Yeah, I was talking with Jem about the word haptic. We were trying to find the word for a few days ago about the sort of knowledge that you can get through of an object, knowledge of an object through your hands. Is that correct, Jem?
Body, the way the body,
the way the body,
you know, creates knowledge through its contact with the world.
Yes, thank you. See, he says it so much better than me. In fact, I suggested to him that, I mean, Jen talks so much more eloquently than me. And I said, do you want to do this instead? You know, because he could talk so much better. You know, and he's actually has started to make things out of clay as well. So I've made a rudimentary torso here, which obviously I refine and do things. But I make the head fairly early on, so I can get a sort of feeling of what kind of character he is. Shall I come nearer to you rather than, yeah, because you know, part of it is me making it, but part of it is, so I use this tool an awful lot. I love it, but it's sort of, yeah.
Peter Bowen says, can Jenny do another Zoom demo on the decoration? But we can move on to decoration afterwards, can't we, briefly?
Yes, and then we'll, you know, maybe talk about, yeah, I'm not committing myself at the moment. It's a bit of a funny year.
Yeah.
But yeah, but thank you, Peter. I'll certainly bear that in mind. What could you ask him? So yes, does Peter work in slips? Yes.
Right, Peter, you must have heard that. So you have to message me.
What might he be interested in with regards decoration, particularly?
I don't know. He hasn't.
Yeah. No, fine.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting. Sort of...
I work with earthenware clay. That's what you're saying.
Okay. So yes.
Your simplified faces are very like the Cycladic figures. So were they something that you looked at in the museums?
Well, I suppose, yes, I certainly looked at them in the same way as I looked at the Greek and the Roman and the Etruscan works. You know, we're sponges, aren't we? We just love to
soak it up. Peter's saying, I would like to know more about the surface decoration. I think we're going to get onto that, Peter. Once the little figure, she's only got one set of hands. We're just doing, you carry on with the figure and then we'll move on to a bit of decoration.
Yeah.
Says, okay, thanks. That's great.
Yes, I mean, I might not make this figure entirely, you know, thorough. I mean, it just looks like a sort of very basic stick figure, really. Yes, I might not entirely make the whole figure, but just to give you an idea. I'm sure we've all done these it's like a gingerbread man, really. Yeah, I don't want his legs quite so long. But yeah, it's just a case of refining, finding a sort of feeling, an approach, sort of, and an amazing thing about, just a little slightest sort of feelings that, again, you can make them sort of stretch up to looking at the birds flying over. Yeah, looking slightly, pensive. It's like morph, really. Just yeah, and it's very wet clay, so obviously I would come back when it's slightly less wet and develop him more. It's amazing what we do with hands.
So generally speaking, the figures are solid.
Generally, generally speaking, the figures are solid. Do you want to go over possibly, Jen, to the horse figures, which are slightly larger? Can you manage all that, Gubbins? So is that light enough? Can you see?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But they're hollow.
So those figures are hollow because they're just too thick to be able to. So that's quite a lot of work to do a hollow figure.
The red one's solid.
The red one is solid, yes. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Please look. Yes. Lots of scratching, lots of damping. So yeah, it was Cambridge was just a fantastic place to live. I mean, most Saturdays I would cycle into town. I lived 3 miles outside of town, and go to see a collection. I'd go to the library and get books, usually non-fiction, something to do with art, and then I'd go to the geology museum and go to look at the rocks there, or the folk museum. There's a great folk museum. Well, yeah, he's a little bit bendy at the moment. I would sort of make a general figure, and then he's got looks like he's got elephantitis, really, let's face it. He's a little bit on the thick side there, but,
and then let him firm up.
But I'd let him firm up, and I'd probably place him on a bit of I noticed I was very interested with your conversation with John Pollux yesterday. I watched that video where he was talking about sponges, and he says he had a sponge for every occasion. There's sponges with holes in for making this kind of print, and then there's firm sponges, and there was even sort of conversation about sort of makeup sponges. So I like this is my resting figure sponge.
Oh,
so
right.
I'd sort of there for it to firm up, and here's my collection of sponges. There's a sponge for each day of the week in there.
Yeah,
so I can
a sponge for every occasion.
Every occasion. And while I'm about it, I'll show my collection of bits of wood, which are sort of quite useful as props for various things. If I want something to be raised. So, nothing like a sort of box of props.
Fantastic.
we'll, we've seen enough of, dear, not being very professional here. I think we've got the sort of idea of, how he's constructed. We'll have a little look at the next stage.
Okay, lovely. That's
What
great.
a big mess. What am I supposed to do with this mess? All right. I need to wash my hands. I don't have running water here, so I just have a bowl
Bucket.
of water. A bucket. Well, yes. And yeah.
So
I do have
how long have you had this studio, Jenny?
Yeah, this studio, nearly 10 years or so, would you say? Yeah. So I started off with just the studio inside. And in fact, the kiln was inside in a sort of lean-to, what do you call it?
Shed.
Conservatory type thing. I never felt happy. I mean, again, with John Pollux, he seemed to have this kiln in his back room, and I thought, if the house burns down, does the insurance cover having a kiln kind of in the house? So I was always a bit dubious about that. So I've always had the inside studio, which I now use for sorting pieces out and storing and other sort of artistic bits, and packing. And then I I've sort of shared studios outside of the home for a little while, just to see what it was like to get out and just have a shared studio system, which is quite sort of interesting, really. But then thought, I'm too old for this kind of thing, because there weren't kilns in these places. So I thought, right, have a studio at the end of the garden, and it's great. So I just do a daily walk here, and it's so useful for sort of checking, coming back during lockdown. There were so many people without studios during lockdown because they couldn't get into them. I just felt so lucky. So yeah, 10 years.
Emma Marsden asks you, first of all, she says, love the sponges and wood. Which piece of work have you been most happy with, Jenny?
Oh my gosh, which work have I been most happy with? God, they're coming fast tonight. I want to say, when we were inside and I was sort of showing you this and showing you that and outside here, I'm a bit of a butterfly. I love to explore different ideas. And although I sort of can return to subjects, I've got quite an eclectic sort of bunch of, knitting pattern, folk, small narrative pieces, looking at sort of scale this big or that big, or sort of people on horses, or I've done cats as well. And I'm a bit of a butterfly, but I've sort of always been, I suppose, I don't see myself as a production person. I just make what I like to make. And obviously, I also make things that I know will sell, because that's sort of quite useful. But I'm very much led by the just enjoying exploring idea production. And so I don't think there's been anything that I haven't enjoyed doing. Obviously, some pieces work better than others, but I've enjoyed it all. Commissions are always a double-edged sword. See, I can feel lots of you nodding your heads, because because you're not led by your own sap, rising over a piece. yeah, you're sort of, oh, I'm worried, you know, will they like it like this? Will they like it like that? You know, what if it doesn't work? Do I need to make two? You know, are they going to like it? And that's very, very inhibiting. So what have I enjoy doing all the pieces because they've all explored. Oh yes, I should be taking this off. It's a bit boring just looking at nothing, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I'm really loving doing these mirror pieces, but there comes a time, you know, I've done, you know, 15 now, and I've got a gallery in France who's going to come over in a week or so and buy a load of them to take back. Oh yeah, okay, that way round. So I think, oh, I've done enough mirror pieces, and I'm going to, next week, I'm going to be getting back to getting my sketchbook out and doing some more drawing, exploring ideas, you know, maybe slightly more abstract from the knitting pattern piece.
Yeah.
And so doing some drawing and then see what comes out of that.
Paul Smith says he's completely sympathises because he's even taken the commissions page off his website.
Ah, how interesting. Well, I think Paul probably sells enough of his own work that sort of come from his own heart to maybe not have to do that. And sometimes we take on commissions, not necessarily because we need the spondoodlies, but, you know, to please people, isn't it? We do like to please people. We like to say yes.
Unfortunately, some of mine lie in my order book for so long that I think I'm not even going to say what happened last time. I should just not have agreed to do it.
Yes, yeah. Well, there comes a time, you know, sometimes you just need to do it, and then you get into the habit of, you know, order books and so on. But yeah, but it's deathly, isn't it, if you're making things that you don't want to make. And commissions often take longer than you think they're going to do, by which time, you know, if you've sort of worked a week on it, you could have probably made several other things that have sort of come more from your heart and actually would sort of pay more bills with.
And also flow freer.
Yeah.
Moira says that you haven't mentioned the birds.
I haven't mentioned the birds. Sorry, I can't hear what you're saying, Jen. Yes,
You haven't mentioned oh, Jem, not Jen.
So haven't mentioned the birds. My goodness, what does she mean? Which birds?
The bird sculptures.
The bird sculptures. What, these ones? Do you think?
I think so. Oh, it might. Yeah, the bird sculptures.
What? Yeah, I wonder if they're the little ones. I might show you something at the end. So that was a prop just to sort of.
Fee says, can you talk through the making of the standing stage of your work can you talk through the making to standing stage of your people?
Right, yes.
Well, they need to firm up, don't they?
They do. I mean, you know, look at this poor chap. You know, he looks like he's been out on the town, and there's absolutely no way I'd be able to stand him up. So obviously he needs to firm up, and also, you know, he's armless and he's looking a bit rough. So yes, I would sort of work on. I must stop saying sort of. Work on him during the day, firming up. I mean, when it's this cold, it's not actually that cold, but it'll take longer for him to firm up.
Oh,
you know.
At the bird sculptures, the ones walking with flowers, were they inspired by bird watching with Jem?
Oh, they're inside now, so I can't show them to you. They're mostly, no, I mean, Jem is an absolute bird nut, and these were influenced, he influenced these ones, but the ones I've got inside that I can't show you, mostly by Audubon illustrations and the old illustrations of birds, Moira. I'll have to sort of, no, I just wanted to make birds in a habitat. I wish I had some to show you here, but I don't.
Oh, don't worry, don't worry.
Yeah, so here you have to firm up, and that when they're firm, I mean, obviously this is a woman, so there's a larger amount of contact there, so that's
And
more.
she's solid,
She's solid. She's completely solid.
and the tree's hollow.
And the tree's hollow. So yeah, I would wait for it to firm up, do a lot of scratching and damping, and then you can get some clay and, you know, fill in any gaps that you might have and push it so it's sort of nice and firm. And yeah, and then just yeah, it's just the scratching and damping and the modeling. Yeah, and obviously if you don't get a good adhesion in the kiln, it would start to crack away. So it's got to be very, very, very firm indeed. I mean, she's not moving now. But when I put her there, she was moving a little bit. So I just put that little bit there to keep her from getting solid, but sort of leaning backwards. So that's leather hard now. I made that. I sort of made that about a week ago because I was busy, and then just put some plastic over her, and then that's ready to decorate.
Okay, so
but I'm not. I would take, just as I say, too long to decorate her. So here's another one I made earlier.
okay,
My goodness, this woman's been so busy. It's just not true.
yes, yeah, we've had you've had to do a lot of work for this.
No, because I was wondering what to do to show you, but I felt like making some of these and it seemed to fit.
Great.
So they seemed appropriate and I was more than happy to make them. Now I've got very clay fingers, so I don't really want to rub clay over a piece already, but yeah, that's been slipped.
Yeah. So the first application, while you're drying your hands, is what have you put on first?
Right. Okay. I would start with the tree. That's the most complicated bit. And what I did was put, and I wish I could do this in real time, but it's just not possible really. So I mean, I love working in terracotta. I love the bits of terracotta that shine through slips, and yet, of course, you can sgraffito and get the terracotta like that, yeah, and get the terracotta. You know, I love sgraffito. So that's why I prefer terracotta than white, because it has that sort of warmth coming through. But with this, and I don't always do it, I put a little bit of white slip all the way over with those brushes. Let's look at brushes a little bit. Yeah, where are brushes when you want them? Yeah, so I would use not a hugely wide. This is just a cheap artist brush, probably squirrel. Don't think that's sable. Just to put a whitewash of a couple of thin layers of white all the way over, just to
Yeah.
give a more luminous, you know, the white will shine through a little bit more.
Yeah.
Then, so the first thing I did, it looks a bit of a mess really, but I'll tell you why, was paint. These are goldfinches. I haven't an example of what they'll look like, but so I painted the goldfinches. They ended up quite big, but you know, so this one will be called Charm of Goldfinches, you know, flying past this man. And the man's
Mim's saying, so the decoration is before any firing. Well, you explain it. I won't explain
yeah,
it.
that's right. So I decorate on greenware. I'll decorate on, this is leather hard, or yes, about leather hard, or slightly more than leather hard. And
A bit like chocolate, consistency of chocolate.
consistent, yes, like the last one, consistency of chocolate. It's not dry, it's not wet, because if it wet, if you paint it on, you'd just get it would just combine with the paint would combine with the clay, and you would just get a bit of a mess. And if you painted this on when it was completely dry, then it might just flake off, but I never get to that stage. So yeah, this is on greenware before it's been bisque fired at all. It's not underglaze colour, it's slip with stains in, and I can show you the stains in a minute. But yeah, you buy they're stains that you've stained glazes with.
And they're combined with your slip.
And yes. So I will. Yeah. So I might make up, this is one which obviously have cakes in. I'll put some white decorating slip in all of these, and then put some stains in each, sort of different colour stains, and then mix them all up. Has to be really well mixed up. Or if I want a darker colour, I've got black, and then I can mix those. So that's the sort of basic, and that's very chocolate boxy and pretty and beautiful. And these are, so this is my little palette I use.
Liz is saying the first layer that you put on was that white slip.
Yes.
And
yeah,
then you put on a tint of green slip over the top of that.
Well, then no. So the white slip, and then I painted the goldfinches. So
what did you use for the goldfinches?
The same things, slip. So I'll paint the slip over. So I'll paint the body and then the wings, and just get more and more detailed. Yeah. And the reason why there are all these spots here is then I'll get a resist. So this is a wax resist emulsion, water-based, or you can use gum. Is it gum? Yeah. But I prefer this. So I'll just get a brush that I use just for this, and I painted over the goldfinches.
Yeah.
So they're finished. So whatever I do after that, the goldfinches will come out nice and bright and clean. I did the same with the flowers here. So I painted the flowers first, and then resisted over here, and then worked on the background.
Yeah.
So that always sort of stays clean. And then, yeah, that's what I did. I then put on a basic green. It was a slightly blotchy green, but a basic green all the way over. And then scratched the veins of leaves all the way over. So that's the first colour. That's the first colour I did. But it's, yeah.
And Sorry, Lizzie says, does the resist fire off in the big fire?
Yes, so the resist fires off. So all these little globules will just break off, and you get a stiff brush when it comes out, and just sort of go, and the resist comes off, and then it's easy enough to put a glaze on. Obviously, you have to clean it up a little bit before you glaze to make sure.
Cresta says, is it a commercial white decorating slip, or do you make up your own?
Well, you make up your own, don't you, in buckets?
No. I'll be honest. What I do is I use Spencroft white earthenware. I dry it, and then I crush it, and I make it into buckets because I like its creaminess.
Yes. But also you use industrial amounts. You're so jolly busy.
I do have a big bucket. Well, it's like a dustbin.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so this is mine, Scarver. So my local supplier is CTM Potteries, well, CTM, which is just outside Exeter. So it's literally 7 miles away. So it's incredibly useful, and it's very well stocked. So this is Vivid. Yes. Well, anyway, decorating slip white. So I can't be, but I don't have the space to make my own.
And yeah,
Or the interest.
Perfect.
To be honest.
Yeah.
So that's the white. So I'll get that in the 5 litres, and then similarly black.
Okay.
And so I'll use both of those. And yeah, as I say, these are just white slip with the stains there. Yeah, so the white slip first, then the birds painted on top, then I'll resist the birds, and then put an overall green or a blotchy green, and then indicate the veins of the leaves, and then again resist it. So again, use the resist to create these leaves, and then put a darker colour behind, and then maybe another resist as well. Yeah, make another resist, and then darker again. So that's basically it. Yeah. Lovely. And I haven't quite finished here. I will, yeah. I left it sort of partly done, but I will, work on to the sort of sgraffito, and I haven't quite finished here yet. I was going to do that, but I haven't mixed up the colours really. But yeah, so that's still to work on, and I'm going to work on him a little bit again. He's sort of started.
Richard's asked, can we keep with the close up on the subject, please? Can you move in a bit further?
I'll use some clay.
Can you go close?
Yeah. Hold on.
So does that work? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So yes, again, I will sort of feel it's a question of balance. I mean, maybe this is quite dark, but I don't think it's going to come out quite so dark. So then I have to decide, am I going to make him dark here, lighter here? You can see he's got a little bit of a wobble. It was Emma that asked that, wasn't it? Because he's only got his little feet.
Yeah.
But it's enough. It's it's strong enough, but he has to firm up
a bit more. Lizzie asks, how many stains do you use, Jenny?
Well, I suppose it depends on what I'm making. I've got about 3 different greens, and if I mix a turquoise or a bit, this is a dark green with a little bit of I'm trying to remember what it's called, a sort of dark darky turquoisey colour, and
Uh-huh.
maybe some black there as well. So this this comes in handy. I just work in, can you see that?
Yeah, that's great. So you
Intuitively and just dab it, you use it as
the palette.
palette, yes.
Do you, Jenny, do you prefer, this is asked by Samsung, I don't know who it is, does Jenny prefer slips to underglazes?
Yes, I do. Yes, I have worked in underglazes, but not for a long time. There's underglazes, you work on a bisque fired piece. Is that right? That's how
you can do, but you can do both.
You can do both. I think there's very little between them.
Sandy says, what's your success rate of things coming complete from the kiln? Put it another way, do you have disasters?
There was a time when I did have some disasters. In the inside studio, there was those large figures, if you remember the large figures.
Yeah, on the top, up at the top, yeah.
Yes, because you're dealing with a huge amount of weight, because those figures are really quite weighty. I put them on these sort of plinths, and the weight was sometimes so much that the base might start developing cracks. And the other thing was because also the top was drying quickly, but the base, being on a piece of wood, didn't. It was trying to shrink, but couldn't because of the weight. So I'd have to lift them up every day in order to So there was a time when I was having problems there. There was another time where I don't know why, but I had some shivering of the glaze, where the glaze would just, particularly on edges, on the edge of bases, just on the edge, it would sort of shiver off, and a bit of glass would sort of come off, and that was very frustrating. And I never, it could have been with there wasn't a good marriage between the clay and the glaze. I never quite understood why that happened, but then it stopped doing it. So it was either a bad batch of glaze or a funny batch of clay, or my water, because I sometimes recycle. I was in shared studios then, and I was just recycling the same water. And terracotta is notorious for having impurities in it. So I just made sure that I used fresh water every time. Most things come out, don't they? But yes, I shouldn't say that. But
I think probably it's just it's experience as you go along. You gain.
Yeah, I mean, I've had 30 years, I suppose, over 30 years of experience, and you do know what works and what doesn't.
Leela says, this is her words, I've just started working in stains. Do you add flux to yours, Jenny?
No, I don't. No.
I do either.
No, because the flux would make it more fluid. Is that right? Flux.
Yeah,
I thought you used flux in glazes.
Yeah, maybe they're putting the stains into the glazes. I don't know, Leela, you'd have to answer that one. And Jane says, oh God, I'm in shivering hell too.
Oh, yeah, I wonder.
Add a bit more clay into her glaze, depending on what glaze she's using.
More clay? Say that again.
Oh no, maybe less. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just hit and miss. And the people that I've met who have had shivering as well, they just don't know why it happens. And some people, it happens on rims particularly, and I know that you shouldn't over sponge a rim.
No.
Yeah.
So she thinks she's using the same clay slip and glaze as you. She thinks, I think.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep the water clean. Don't over sponge. You know, yeah, maybe it's just the marriage between the clay and the glaze. There's so many sort of different things, and mine just suddenly stopped, and I don't know why. You know, maybe it's something to do with the water. You know, just no idea.
Anyway, she said she'll keep trying.
Yeah, I mean, there are very
Just
many forms.
Occasionally you get a headache that you cannot resolve.
Absolutely.
And then it goes away. And you don't-
Yeah, it's just strange that way. But to answer Emma's question, no, most of the things I make tend to sort of keep in one piece. Touch wood at the moment, but you just never know what's around the corner. You know, I have so many friends that have had a bad batch of clay that you know. Yes, I'm dying. I know, dear. Yeah, I just wanted to show you this, which is a little narrative. Can you see it?
That little Red Riding Hood.
So there's a little Red Riding Hood and trees.
Or a wolf.
And yeah, a wolf around here. But yeah, Jem's prompting me to talk about drying, because I'm really fussy about my drying. Because whenever you get thin elements and thick elements, there's going to be a sort of lack of marriage between there's going to be a differentiation between the drying times. So for example, you know, when you've got something small and thin like this, and on the big base, which will take longer to dry, you know, I will cover these up and let that dry, let this dry. But sometimes, you know, some of my pieces take weeks, if not months, to dry.
And do you dry quite a lot of your pieces you know, under plastic so that they dry really slowly? Because
yes, I do. Yeah, in fact, all of my things, apart from very small things, I dry under plastic, under cool conditions.
Yeah.
And so when it was really, you know, hot last summer, and I was trying to decorate here, and you know, the brush was evaporating before you know, it sort of got to here. You could see things evaporating in front of your face. It was just it was a race against time. You know,
I made a series of boards that I put over my windows, so I barricaded myself in.
I get the afternoon sun there, and boom, you know, at 2 o'clock the board goes up. Yeah. And if it's sunny, you know, it's a shame to do away with the light, but yeah, needs must. Yeah. So yes, I'm very sort of fussy about drying my things quite slowly. Anyway, I've got one last thing to show. How long have we got?
Well, it's we're heading towards 9 o'clock.
And are we stopping at 9?
No, we don't have to stop at 9.
Right.
But if you carry on and show us what you wanted to show everyone. Yeah,
but theoretically we're stopping at 9. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't think I can't remember what I said.
No, I haven't a clue. I'm in your hands.
Well, oh, this is the combination, putting things together. I thought.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. So
let's do this, and then we'll stop and see if anybody has any questions, and then if everybody thinks they've got questions, Jenny will put these together, and then we can have a short question time, and then we'll just say thank you and good night. Is that all right?
Yeah.
You've done.
I'm in your hands. I mean, I wasn't going to show these, but I think the last time we had a little chat, you were very keen on seeing them. Again, I haven't got the sort of tools to show, but oops, I make these batches of birds, bees and trees after having done, you know, something larger and quite intense. I can make them not without thinking, but they're a balm to my soul. You know, I just enjoy making them, and they sell, so you know, it's a win-win situation. So I just wanted to show the the construction of them, really. So I'll make a little base or a series. I'll do batches, make a series of, you know, 20 bee bases, 20, and I don't think too much about the color. I just enjoy myself, and then we'll cut the wire, and the wire has to be very, very clean, and then I'll just get a file to just try and
give it a tooth.
Sorry?
Give it a tooth.
Yeah, to give it a bit of a tooth. That's right, a tooth. Yes, that's right. And use super glue both in the bottom and the top there to secure. And as long as little kids in galleries don't go like that, which they have been known to do, they're very, very secure. So I'm just making a little batch there, and the same with the trees. They're all. This is a very thin wire. This is a medium wire, and the trees take a thicker wire, so sort of makes it slightly more.
The question is it ceramic wire?
So the question is, the answer is no, it's not ceramic wire. This is stainless steel wire, and it's quite bendy. So the ceramic wire you're talking about, I'll just go over here, but carry on talking, is nichrome wire. Right, where have I put it? Where have I put it? No, I can't find. No, I should have it out, but I don't know where they are. Yeah. So no, so I don't fire these. It's not ceramic wire, and because obviously, for I'm sure you're aware, you can't put the glazed piece just resting on the kiln shelf, because it would just stick to it. So yeah, you're right, it does need this nichrome wire, which I'll glaze the piece so it's sort of white. Oops. Yeah, well, I chose the wrong blooming. Yeah. There we go. So I'll put this nichrome wire, which can be put in the kiln, there, and then use a sort of dummy base,
yeah,
which has got holes in, to put that there and support it, and then that goes on the kiln shelf like that.
Yeah, and you can then disassemble it.
Pardon?
You can then take it apart and
then I can take it apart. So then I'll just sort of go like that, take those out, and the bases are fine, obviously, to go in the kiln because they're not glazed underneath. And then I can mix and match, and that's part of the joy of it. I can sort of, shall I put that with that, or shall I put it with that or there? And so I spend a very sort of pleasant day mixing and matching, and obviously there's odd bits that don't sort of go with anything, so okay, they go in the next batch.
Lovely.
I just wanted to show you those because those are my sort of little pleasure, and that I do in between larger jobs.
Oh, lovely. Oh, lovely. That's fantastic. I'm sure you must be tired having gone through all that with us. But before,
darling.
Pardon?
I could do this all night, darling.
Fantastic. I'm going to have to go. Steph says I'm going to have to go in a minute, but thank you so much. That was thumbs up. which I
Oh,
think.
thanks, Steph. That's really kind. I'm really
If
glad.
anyone has any questions before we leave, Jenny, could you just please type them in now, and get set up on. I love the playfulness, and this is from Jane. I love the playfulness and humor that you put into your work. Thanks for sharing the way of working. Everything you make is just fab. That's
Oh, Jane, I'm blushing down to my roots. Thank you. Thank you. Really
That's
kind.
Alternatively, they could unmute and actually ask a question.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
except they all, yeah. Carry on if you want to unmute and ask the question. That's fine. So nobody's unmuted. Oh, thanks, Jenny. It's been fun and informative. That was from Paul.
Great, thanks, Paul.
When can we see part 2? Because this has been awe-inspiring. Thank you.
Ah, well, we'll have to work on that. I don't.
That's really kind of you, Peter. She's been marvelous. You've been really.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
I've got a question about the kiln temperatures, Jenny,
Okay.
because I've been told that low firing, because terracotta quite often you fire the bisque a little bit higher and then lower with the glaze. So it was interesting that you fire the bisque at 1,000.
Yeah.
It 60. It seems like everybody just has different ways of doing
I
it.
think so, because I suppose it also depends what you do with the beast and maybe what glaze you use. Do you use terracotta yourself?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I work with terracotta and slips and CTM glaze.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. And so what bisque do you take it to?
Well, I was doing exactly what you were doing, but in an effort to try and end this shivering problem, a lot of people said to me, "Oh no, you should bisque a bit higher," and yeah, but it obviously works for you, so I think it's possibly not that. So
well, I don't know actually, because I know when I was doing a class at one of the colleges, the technician got the CTM glaze, and that's exactly what happened, what you're describing. So in fact we did actually fire bisque fire higher, and then fire the glaze a bit lower, but that is certainly not what I do with my own glaze, which I mix myself. So it could well be that something to do with that particular glaze. Pearl says, just caught the last few minutes, unexpected problem tonight, looking forward to seeing the recording, loved the fun and relaxed pieces. Emma said, thank you so much, Jenny. Paul Smith says, how do you apply the clear glaze? With a brush, ?
Always dipping. I always dip.
So there you go.
I don't brush it on. I always dip.
Leela says, lovely work, really enjoyed the chat, thank you. Sorry, it's jumping a bit now. Oh God. India says, I've discovered your wonderful pieces when I acquired 2 small men of yours bearing flowers. I absolutely love them. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Samsung says, thank you so much. It's been so good. Could I ask if you ever have issues with layering of slip cracking or layers of slip cracking off? Linda, not Samsung, sorry, technical IT problems. That's from Linda.
Yeah.
Oh, these are really jumping. Jane says, thank you so much for sharing. Love to see you demonstrate decorating in more detail at some time in the future.
Yeah, well, we can work on that. Yeah, as for the slip layering, jumping off, there has been the odd little bit purple. I find purple somehow. If you have a higher concentration of the pigment, I don't think it adheres to the clay as easely for some reason.
Oh, hang on. Lizzie says, love, thank you so much. Pauline Lee says, what a treat, thank you so much. Claire says, thank you so much, it was really interesting. Your work is so colourful and full of fun, Jenny.
Oh, well, that's everybody's been too kind. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been lovely to chat with you.
Right. It's been really marvelous. Wait, right. Where the trees in the forest solid or hollow? That's the little Red Riding Hood, I think.
Yes, yeah, those were solid. Those were
Right.
solid. Yeah, all of them. They were all solid.
And the
Yeah.
tops of the trees as well, were they?
Yeah, the top trees are solid, but they're quite, I don't know if you can see it from there. They're quite small. I made them small.
Okay.
If I made them any bigger, then
Yeah.
would have had to been hollow. But I wouldn't fancy hollowing out the whole of the tree.
Yeah,
So I'd
'cause
probably
they're
put a little hole in the top somehow.
Sarah Evans says, thank you so much, and to Jem for filming. It's been very enjoyable.
Well,
and
I should actually.
That's something we should say is we really need to thank Jem for filming all night, because it's actually quite a long time to hold a camera in front of your face, and keep
No,
it.
we have a little engineered
Well, shall I show it?
space for the
Yeah, we
Jenny created something.
yeah, well, between us we did. So this is so here's Jem.
Hi, Jem.
Mr. Marvelous
So
himself.
we created this.
So
has been
there we
our
go.
tripod,
Yeah, so there's our little contraption in between times, and this is a thing where I used to make beads for a little time, and I would put night chrome wire across here and have beads.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
And then the camera's been in here.
Yeah.
And finally the kilns.
And then finally the kilns, yes.
Oh yeah, finally we'll just have a
So
quick.
that's Big Bertha, which I hardly use nowadays, which is, I know I still do use that.
I can't actually
And then-
see the kilns.
Oh, you've got
Yeah.
no, okay. That's small, that's an eco top, just 60 litre, I think, or 40 litre.
Oh, if you have to stop because everything's buffering. That's it. We've yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right,
So-
okay, well, maybe that's a natural ending. But thanks ever so much, Jenny. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this. Great fun.
Oh well,
But,
you've been fantastic. You've been absolutely fantastic, and I can't thank you enough for sharing with us this evening. It's been a
No, thank you.
great pleasure to chat.
And thank you, Mick, though, for the technical work. It's no feat.
Right.
Okay. So I think we'll say good night for now, and we'll speak. Oh, thank you so much. That's from Amanda.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
that's from Susan. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed your demo, Jem. Well done, all. Lynette says.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, great.
We
No,
would
that's
like, we would like
Oh,
to possibly do a workshop with you down at Laddock. I could see some great trees being made.
Okay, well, maybe we'll work on
well.
that.
This is right. I'll chat to you tomorrow, Jenny, if that's all right.
Okay.
And thank you
No,
so much. 2 kisses and Fee and Dresden Holmes, and well done you to MX Moira.
Stopping the recording
Fantastic.
now.